The last few weeks, we have jumped into this idea of speaking truth into people's lives, but we've really focused on what it looks like to approach people with the right motives. We've looked at what it looks like to receive truth, because that's hard for everybody. But what I want to do just this week, just take a few minutes, is really encourage you to be able to speak truth. I'm going to be real honest. Some of you, that comes super easy to. And honestly, I'm not necessarily talking to you, right? I'm more referencing, hey, check back week 1 when we talked about motives to make sure you're not using truth too boldly or too difficultly or in a way that causes other people to stumble. But what I really wanted to do in this kind of final week is to talk about those who really struggle to speak truth into somebody's life because you're just nice people. Right? You don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to scare anyone. You don't want to lose relationships. You don't want it to be awkward. And so you might see truth that needs to be spoken, see blind spots that need to be called out in somebody's life. You like them, you love them, but man, it's really difficult to take that step. And so what I want to do is I want to read Matthew 18 for you, which is this structure that God gives of how we call people out. I want to read that so that you know there is a structure, and that there is an authoritative calling out for you to go and practice this. But then I want to just say a few things to encourage you in that challenge. Here's what Matthew 18, starting in verse 15 says. If your brother sins against you, go tell him his fault between you and him alone, approaching him or her one-on-one to speak truth into this sin that you've seen in their life. If he listens to you, you've gained your brother back. But if he does not listen, take 1 or 2 others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. So gather around other loving, gospel, grace-oriented community to say, hey, we really do see this blind spot. We see this thing in your life that we want to challenge you in. So then you approach with 2 or 3. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, then we are to treat him like a Gentile or a tax collector. And that's hard and heavy stuff that we're challenged to do. But God gives us his command. He encourages you to go and speak truth into people's lives. He gives you a structure. You don't have to do it on your own. The first time you do it, you need to approach the person one-on-one and then bring others along. We're called to do that. It's difficult. And a lot of times it's difficult because we say, man, it just doesn't feel loving. The reality is it is. Let me tell you a story. In March, I went to Walmart. I was at Walmart buying some groceries or something. I was walking down the aisle, having my basket. I walked by the clothes, and I saw some shorts. They weren't just any shorts. They were quite possibly the greatest shorts I've ever seen. Those shorts I saw, and I was like, I have to buy those. My life is incomplete without them. So I bought those shorts, took them home. My wife, for some reason, will not let me wear these shorts in public. She thinks I'm believing a lie, these aren't good shorts, and that I need to burn them in the backyard. And she says, she forbids me to let me wear them in public. These shorts. Those are the amazing shorts that my wife doesn't appreciate. Surely you appreciate them. Now, luckily for her, we have entered into a covenant of marriage where I will never leave her, I will never forsake her. But the reality is, right, there was this tension of like, what do you mean? These are the greatest shorts ever. Why shouldn't I be able to wear these at all times in public? And she thinks they look hideous and ridiculous, and I look like an idiot, all of those things. Here's the thing. My wife is absolutely right. Like, these shorts are the ugliest shorts ever. And my wife, right, as silly as this is, my wife loves me enough to tell me, hey, sweetheart, your shorts are ugly. Don't ever wear those in public. We need people like that in our life, right? We need the people in our life that are going to say, hey, there's broccoli in between your teeth, and I love you enough to tell you that, and I'm not afraid of it being slightly awkward. Man, we need that in our souls. Right? If my wife's able to say that about shorts, or you're able to say that about some food between somebody's teeth, we need to do that in our brothers and sisters' lives because we love them. We see blind spots that are going to cost them life and life abundantly, things that are going to hold them back for what maybe some of the ways God's designed them to live, some sin that they're stepping into. And so often we think, well, man, it just feels so unloving, but that's not the reality. The reality is it's an incredibly loving thing to do. And so for those who might be watching this in a group who just say, man, I see things, but I have a hard time stepping out in confidence, then my encouragement is that you would be obedient to that. Let me read you one of my favorite parables. Jesus talks about the parable of the hidden treasure. It's in Matthew chapter 13, verses 44. This is what Jesus says. He says, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has to buy the field. Here's what's happening. A man finds this incredible treasure, and the kingdom of heaven is like that treasure. And he recognizes the value of that treasure is so great, he hides it, and then he knows the value is so much greater than everything else he has. And so what does it say? In joy, he sells everything. He sells everything, which means that that treasure, what the kingdom was like, was costly. Without a doubt, it was costly. But he did it, and he exchanged that cost joyfully, willingly, because he knew it was worth it. If we are to be believers who are pursuing his kingdom, right, the kingdom of heaven, pursuing this kingdom mindset that our community looks like the kingdom. It looks like we're showing grace to people, but it looks like we're speaking truth into their life. And honestly, I'm not going to water it down. Sometimes that feels really costly. Sometimes people have a hard time receiving that. Sometimes it gets awkward. Sometimes people are going to stiff arm you. That's a reality of it. My encouragement and challenge is that you would love the kingdom and love people enough to even make that hard choice, that costly choice at times, that relationally costly choice, and be able to speak truth into brokenness and sin and lies and blind spots in the same way that you would want to receive that from others. Man, our hope is that this is an encouragement to all of you, and our hope is that even in your groups tonight, you'd wrestle through what that looks like, what might hold you back from sharing with other people, and ways that you can break through that so we can see his kingdom more and more in our community.